let's check and see how you did on your Unit 2 information. So here, keeping in mind this is relative frequency, so that's percentage. And so then we want to know how many chose that. So therefore, we had to do the percent of the total. And so that's what we had gotten here was the percent of the total to get the number. So you want to keep the number and the proportion and the number of items separate, being conscious that there's a difference between those two things. All right, now on this one, you had to find if there's an outlier. So what you do is you go and put this information into stat variable, one variable statistics. So I just put all of that into one variable statistics, and I found and you know what else? I could have actually probably done this easy enough by hand, the 5-number summary. But if you wanted to do the standard deviation rule, then you could have gotten the mean and then, more importantly, the standard deviation with the one variable statistics. Once you find the upper fence, see if you have any of these values above the upper fence. And once you find the lower fence, see if you have any of the values below the lower fence. None of the values below the lower fence or above the upper fence. Data above the upper fence or below the lower fence is an outlier. So here we have, keep in mind which these statements is not true, okay? And so here, when they are talking about percentages, that's good because remember that a box plot's going to tell us the quartiles and the percentages. And here we can see that the median of the males is about 162. Now, the males' weights have less variability. Definitely not, because I can see that they span much more, so they have a wider range. And even the IQR. The IQR is wider than the female's IQR. So in all terms, the males have more variability, not less. All right, here we have this. Find the probability the randomly selected individual is in excellent health or is very happy. So if you just take 73 plus 103, you have double counted this 36. So remember on the formula chart, it actually shows to add the probability of A plus the probability of B minus the overlap that gets double counted, the probability of A and B. Okay, so that is then 140 out of the 200. That's how you get the 70%. Next, here we have again some box plots. And I can already tell that whenever we are talking about there are more males, when they're talking about the number of items, we don't know that because we would only know that if we were told that these had equal or if we knew how many were in this total amount. And we do not know how many is in this total amount, okay? Because we don't know how many won the different awards and such in the Oscars. So therefore, these ones that talk about there being the same number, those are definitely out. And now this is a percentages, comparing the percentages. And yes, the highest 25% includes these upper outliers, is much more spread out than the highest 25% of the males. Okay, now the ages of the males are not more spread out because I can do the range of them. And well, actually, now I can see right now that the females are definitely more spread out. All right, number 6, which of the following statements is true? Okay, so here it's an idea of sample versus population. The range, the high minus low of the sample is never greater than the high minus low of the population. That is true. Now, it could equal it if the sample did include the highest and the lowest. It can equal it or be smaller. All right. How about this? The IQR range is half the distance between the first quartile and the third quartile. What is that? That would be like Q3 minus Q1 divided by 2. That's not true. It's just Q3 minus Q1. And the range is affected by outliers. That is true. The IQR is not affected by outliers. That is also true because remember that IQR is that middle 50%. So when you knock off the outside edges, it is not affected by those outliers. All right, so here, this one is a matter of keeping the overall context in mind and what this problem was giving you. Talked about the miles per gallon, but yet this pie chart is just an indication of where these vehicles came from and the proportion of the vehicles studied that came from US and the proportion of the vehicles and models in the Consumers Union made in France, and so on. The proportion made of the Consumers Union cars made in each country. Therefore, this one here, talking about miles per gallon, that's out. Nothing about miles per gallon. That knocks out the first 3 answer choices. And then we do not know, let's see, Mercedes, Audi, Porsche, and BMW. Oh yeah. So see, I only have countries. I don't know the particular brands that are accounted for in those countries, but I do know over half the cars came from the U.S. And here we go is this one, which the following is the median. Okay, so in order to do this median, remember median is that middle one, I had to first find that 200 seniors is the total. And so then that means if you take 200 and you split it in half, you will have 100 on the lower half and 100 on the upper half. So the average of the 100th and the 101st item is the median. So then I count. And so I'm like, okay, 22 plus 84. Okay, well, that's well over 101. So once I add these two together, that gets me past the middle. So I'm going to know, so then therefore I know the middle is somewhere in here because, I have the first 22 and then I have the next 84 of them. And then here's 62 and then 24 and then 8. Okay, so if this was like a dot plot or histogram or whatever. Now, I can tell, here's the 22, and then I'm going to count up to the 101st one, which is in here somewhere. So that's why it is in that 60 to 66. You have to visualize what's happening there. All right. Eye color and gender are independent. That means that since we know the rate at which male have brown eyes, then the females will have brown eyes at the same rate. So then that means of the 120 females, 75% would make 90 of them. So that was the key, knowing the fact that they are independent, they're having brown eyes at the same rate. All right, and here's another one with comparing these two box plots here. And again, look, number of items is out. This has less, let's see, the range of the brands classified as healthy is less than the range. So you can easily see, you could compute the high minus the low and see that that is not the case. I can see the healthy is larger range. The median of the healthy is more than twice the amount. No, here is the median. It's just 25 milligrams more, and so on and so forth. And so you can see that IQR of the healthy ones is greater than. They're actually much more varied when they are classified as healthy. And here is our last one. We do know that we have 20 men and 20 women. So that means that I could determine quartiles, the number in the quartiles, okay? So do keep that in mind that I could tell the quartiles here. At least half of the women had higher pulse rates than 3/4 of the men. And that's correct. At this top half is more than at least 3/4 of the men. All right, so that is the finish of that section, which then takes us through the first 11 problems. Hope that you did well on those.